Hey guys, Steve here from Got8 Lures. Today we're going to be making up a swim bait while we're in COVID lockdown. So going to be doing a roach imitation, which is very similar to the roach that hatch at Lake Eildon, similar kind of size and profile that we seem to do well on. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy how we make up these little fellas. Have a good one. You know that little fairy that comes along and plays with all your drags? That's him. All right. Alrighty guys, so getting our little camp oven heated up here, putting my hot plate on top, nice flat hot plate, keeping it away from the kids, up and on a small flame, and then we get our top 4 mould, opening it up, placing it on the hot plate and let it warm up. While that's happening, we're going to start first with the orange highlights that we use on our roach imitation. So just using a little bit of some reused orange Plastisol from some other pours. My son loves tearing it up and breaking it up and putting it in the pot with me. It's his favourite activity. So that's a great one if you've got any 2 to 5-year-olds around at home, just tearing up the Plastisol and sticking it in one of the bits they can be hands-on with. And melting it up, guys, whilst our mould's just heating up a little bit there. I do sometimes use a soldering iron. Today I'm going to use a paintbrush. Particularly when we're heating the mould itself, and I'm going to heat it to a decent temperature. You can get away with using a paintbrush to paint on the Plastisol a little bit. So just waiting for that orange to melt up for us. I'm going to do a base layer of orange on this one, guys. So I generally do a base layer of orange a little bit around the just where the fins are, the belly of the tail and the tip of the tail as well. And then I'll darken up the orange a second time and add a little bit more to it for our orange highlights around the fin areas. Just painting it on slowly, guys. Again, very temperature specific. So really trying to go for a bit of an imitation of exactly what we catch at Lake Eildon, the kind of match the hatch scenario. So just that nice kind of ready orangish. Add in a little bit more orange, and this will just be to dot in those highlights. Warm it up a little bit more just so everything stays nice, and you want it in a temperature spectrum where it's going to bond. Obviously we want to heat the mold, we want to keep it fairly sticky, the Plastisol, so it bonds well to our main body that we're going to be pouring in. And the idea is just not to muck around. Once you get it off the hot plate, obviously trying to get it assembled as quickly as possible, and then going into pouring your main fill, which for this lure will be a transparent bottom like a roach, and then moving to a solid grey on top like what most kind of bait fish are. I just like to neaten up the Plastisol a little bit, put it all back in the pot of the same colour and let it go off together. Put it outside to cool off, and then putting on the heat gloves. Turned the mould off a while ago, but now just letting it cool down a couple of minutes. Our highlights should be set, and then we can move on with the main mould, reassembling it, and then start to pour our main body. Just important when you put it in the vise, guys, making sure that it's nice and level, squared off. And then, like I said, we're going to pour a clear layer, which we'll do nice and quickly. Once I find where the pot is, that's right, I put it outside to cool off. So all that orange should be set now, pulling that out nice and neatly together in the Pyrex jar, putting it in our orange tub. And then we'll pour some fresh one because I'm going for a really translucency clear on the bottom, like so. we're going to pour in that, guys. And then to that, we're going to add in our grey, and then mix in our pewter grey to get that really grey top, just to finish off the swim bait nicely on top. So that's getting to that dark grey point now. Going to pour that in as the final layer. I roughly wait about 2-3 minutes between the layers, guys. I want them to set, and you don't want the colours to run into each other, but obviously you still want them tacky enough that they bond really well. This Plastisol mix, guys, is a sinking Plastisol, so it's not buoyant. It is going to slowly sink, as well as we're going to use a weedless hook that has a fair bit of lead on the bottom of it to give it to. It's going to still have a slow sink for Lake Eildon, but it will be a sinking swim bait, and obviously fairly flexible as well. We're not going for a hard Plastisol, super soft, so that the tail swims around a fair bit. So just waiting for that mould to set, get our little spot cleared up for some hooks and some rigging. So what we're going to do today, guys, like I said, is using the weedless hook. I think it's a size 5 or 6, possibly size 5 weedless hook. And then we're going to rig a hanging treble for this particular swim bait as well, because I do that for all the swim baits we use at Lake Eildon. Okay, guys, the moment of truth, the big reveal out of the mould. So after about 10 minutes or so, pulling it out, you'll see the little bit of steel that I slid in the middle there for a hook slot. It's come out awesome. Got that deep grey on top, translucent belly, orange tail, orange fin area, really imitating a roach. I've got these grouse orange kind of eyes from Quinton at Bridgewater Lures. He uses them on some of his really good spinner baits. They suit this swim bait awesome. So the orange eye in there, a little bit of super glue to hold it on. But what you'll see in a sec is I'm actually melting another pot of clear Plastisol again. Once the eyes are super glued on, I actually give the head another dip in clear Plastisol. That just makes sure the eyes aren't going to come out and gives a little bit more strength to the head where you're going to pin that belly hook. And then just giving it that quick dip, guys, like I said before. Nice, solid, strong head there. Eyes are super glued on, dipped with clear over the top. Super good head. And then we can move on to rigging. And then with the rigging, guys, so like I said, using a 5-0 or a 6-0 hook, basically I pin it just under the nose because I like the nose of the bait to be jerked upwards a little bit, but enough so that it definitely still pulls straight. So just under the very tip of the nose there. Like I said, this bait, when I poured it, I put a hook slot in the middle, which helps it a little bit with these big hooks. And I do like the top of the hook penetrating enough, definitely for a hook up on a cod. I find 90% of the time they'll hit it on the paws head first. So just putting it up into there. So wanting it in the front quarter of the bait there, nicely exposed. But then for this one, like I said, we're going to do a hanging treble as well. So with the hanging treble, basically getting a bit of leader material. I use obviously a thick wire leader material, not a fluorocarbon or anything like that. Definitely super tough, with some game crimps like what you'd use on your tuna gear, and then obviously a nice wide gap or wide gate treble, something like a mustad fang that I'm using here. Generally have a good hook up rate. So with the hanging treble, I like it to be about 2/3 of the way down the fish, just where the belly stops there, kind of sits in that little gap. Again, for Lake Eildon, always run a hanging treble, and then it can be ran fairly weedless if you're fishing some heavy cover areas, more so in the rivers. So once you work out the length there, guys, like we said, 2/3, getting it right, and then crimping it with your crimp pliers. And then before you trim it, guys, an important bit that I always do is just leaving a tag on the end. So leaving a little bit of a tag, and I use that to insert it into the plastic so that I can hold the hook where I want it, but it obviously pretty much pulls out instantly if a fish was to hook up, and actually gives us a really good hook up rate. These plastics are super soft. So when a cod comes up and inhales it, generally we will pin it on that big hook, guys. We'll roll in under a jaw, but definitely other than that, your swinging treble will get it every time. And here you go, guys. Our Eildon-Roach imitation swim bait. Not really a huge swim bait, can be cast on kind of most rods, guys, but decent enough to get the right attention. Hope you enjoyed our little how-to, guys, and we'll catch you around the traps.